Hi everybody, this is Dr. Blevins with Enilda Clinic, and today I'm going to be talking about young children who are non-compliant and sassy towards just one parent, and pretty compliant and kind, well-mannered towards the other parent. So, and you can see the full question on a couple of other posts, and I will add it up onto this post later today. So, this is an interesting question, and I've definitely had it a lot of times in my therapy practice, but there's not always the same reason for that behavior. So it's kind of a hard question to answer generically on the internet. So let me tell you a couple of things that I will sometimes see across different families. So one thing I see is whenever the child is bright or more towards the gifted side, those children tend to push boundaries more, especially whenever you have a brighter parent or a parent who subscribes to a parenting or discipline style where they want to explain everything to the child. A gifted child or a bright child tends to push on boundaries and asks why for almost everything. And so when you have a parent who entertains that behavior much more than the other parent who might be a little bit more rigid with their boundaries, then it can create a dynamic where the child knows that they can push boundaries with one parent and that the boundaries are strict with the other parent. And so there are good and bad things with that. And again, this always comes back to your values as a family. Whenever your child is pushing back on boundaries, it is developing a certain set of verbal skills, reasoning skills that allows them to be really effective as an adult in our culture today. And so it is a skill set building practice that we have research on that says that they're going to be better at being an employee. They're going to make it higher up inside large businesses. They're going to be able to advocate for themselves easier, all kinds of stuff. And then the second part of that is that whenever you have a brighter child and the parent is setting pretty strict boundaries, and with that particular instance, a lot of times it can reduce anxiety for the child because the child knows how far they can push things and that they sort of have this safety net for themselves. And so there are positives and negatives to different types of parenting styles. It kind of depends on the very unique situation of that family. And then outside of having a brighter child, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Other things that might be going on would be if there's just this dynamic happening between the child and the parent, where maybe the child has started taking on extra responsibilities. Like if your child has anxiety, and so they take on the responsibility of checking on things and they're constantly pushing back and questioning. This might happen if you have a parent who's not anxious, and maybe that leads to, a little bit more of a relaxed style whenever it comes to planning out the day. And maybe there's not this rigid calendar or structure to the day where anticipating what's going to happen next is there. And so an anxious child might try to exert their power over the parent because it's giving them this sense of consistency and control and helping them to be able to predict what's going to happen. And the other times when I have seen that this dynamic has happened is if maybe a parent is struggling with their own difficulties and the child perceives that and they want to be able to be supportive for their parent. So it's coming from a loving place, but it's typically, and this is the reason why the parent's concerned, it's developmentally inappropriate. So sometimes a parent might be going through grief. They might be going through a divorce or just a difficult situation. And Lord knows we've all been through very difficult situations in this last year. But the child might be trying to just exert more control in order to make up for their perceptions that their world has changed. Their family life has changed in some way, and they're trying to get that structure back. And so there may be that sense again of inconsistency, which creates distress. Okay, so those are kind of the three big reasons why I've seen it. There could be others that I'm missing, and I'm totally happy if a mental health provider out there who's watching this wants to put down others. That'd be great. Basically, the way that I treat this all kind of boils down to the same thing. It's helping the parent to know how to set really clear, firm, positive boundaries for the child in a way that helps the child to relax. It helps the child to learn how to trust the parent so that they give up that control and they can easily comply with what the parent's requesting. Again, I can't answer the question for absolutely every family situation out there because I just never know what's going on. So it could be that your child has unique needs that need to be addressed, even needs that are outside of behavioral health. There could be language deficits or social skill deficits, and mood deficits, whatever it might be. And so I do encourage anybody out there who has that particular difficulty to chat with your child's pediatrician and maybe even just do a consult with a behavioral health provider, because understanding the dynamics underlying that difficulty, the sooner you address it, the sooner, one, you're going to feel better, the sooner your child's going to feel better, and the shorter the amount of time that your child is practicing those behaviors, the longer it goes on, the more entrenched that pattern of interaction becomes. And I think that that's something that can be pretty sad for a family, is they might take a wait and see approach or let's see if they grow out of it kind of approach. And oftentimes it just means that they've practiced the behavior for longer and longer, and it's become more complex, and it's much more difficult to change that behavior once they are older. It's a big reason why I work with 2 to 7 year olds, because I just really like having my quick wins. But then once you get 8, 9, 10 year olds in the room, they have much more complex behaviors with contingencies and consequences that maintain their maladaptive behaviors that are very sticky and difficult to change and take a much, much longer period of time and a much stronger commitment from the family to change. All right, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I love, love, love that we got a question, and please feel free to submit more questions because it makes me super happy. Okay, thanks. Bye. See you next week.